So Italy is coming into this tournament with high expectations. Some call them a dark horse to win it all, which is weird to me, considering Italy a dark horse, but we'll go over that soon. While some think that this is an Italian side that lacks in experience and will pay for it. So, I spoke to who else but Marco from Italian Football TV. If you follow Italian football in any capacity, then surely you'll know Marco, Mike, Anto, David, and everyone else involved as they are doing big things for English-speaking Calcio fans. Definitely go and check them out, linked below, as always. And if you're looking for the best way to follow Euro 2020 and ensure you don't miss a single beat, then our sponsors OneFootball have got you covered. OneFootball's app will keep you up to date on everything that's going on during Euro 2020 and all of the summer competitions, such as Copa America as well. Follow the tournaments, teams, or players that you care most about, and your newsfeed will be custom tailored to your liking. Follow matches live with their match tickers, watch videos and highlights, and stay up to date on your club's transfers as well during this summer silly season. So use the link below to get a free download on either iOS or Android. Android Army, rise up, and you'll be helping out an independent channel such as this one in the process. Thanks OneFootball, and without further ado, let's talk Azzurri. All right, so let's start from the beginning with Roberto Mancini. Let's get yourself back in that headspace of when it was announced that he was going to be taking over the Italian national side. Did he go beyond your expectations, or is this what you expected from him all along? Because Italy are very strong now under Mancini.
No, I'll be completely honest. I wasn't too excited when we got Mancini. He didn't have the greatest of reputations. He's usually had really good squads. Obviously, we know what he did with Manchester City. He was at Inter. I wasn't expecting him to really build up the youth the way that he did, and I think he's definitely gone beyond my expectations. Like I said, the amount of different players that he's called into this team, and also the unity that he's brought. Because we had a lot of coaches before that they only thought about themselves in a way. To give an example, Mancini plays a 4-3-3. Mm-hmm. He's made sure he wants all of our youth teams to play 4-3-3 as well, so that they're ready to make that jump. And he's kind of been like a philosopher in that way. So he's definitely gone beyond my expectations, and I've been really happy with him so far.
That's actually an amazing thing that he's doing, and that he's getting all the youth teams to play. Just so there's that continuity throughout all of them, so it's an easy integration into the national side. That's a really good call. Let's look at the squad that he called up for Euro 2020. There are some notable exclusions, such as Moazaken and Politano, I believe. But if you had the power, would you make any changes to the squad, or are you happy with it as is?
I think as fans and as people that watch from the outside, of course, we always think that we know it all. This in my head, I'm running through formations, I'm putting players. But then when you pull all this squad together and you're really training with them every single day, you kind of just have to trust in the guy that's being there, that's watching them. If it was me, yes, I would. I love Moise Kean. For me, I really think he's a great player. Obviously, the problem has been, he's had attitude problems in the past. It happened with the youth Italian team, where him and Zaniolo were excluded from the squad. And, there's been rumors of it happening elsewhere. So that's the part that we can't understand. We're not there to see how they train, how they act afterwards. So it's easy for me to say, yeah, of course, a talent like Moise Kean, he plays for PSG. There's no way that you could doubt him. So I would make changes, but at the same time, I understand Mancini, where he's like, listen, I'm with this group daily. You have to just kind of blindly trust your coach in a way,
Yeah, absolutely. You nailed it there. We always think that we're the expert, and for us, it's like we're playing Football Manager or FIFA or something like that. Why wouldn't you bring on all these strong players? But yeah, there's those intangibles, there's those intangibles that you mentioned in training. Now, you said that he has everyone playing the 4-3-3. He has tested out a sort of 3 at the back type formation as well. So Coach Messina here, are you sticking with that 4-3-3, or would you like to see some sort of other formation for this tournament?
No, definitely 4-3-3. I think we've played our best football in a 4-3-3. We're on 27 games unbeaten with a 4-3-3, almost a 4-3-3 almost all the time. And I also think that the team is more adapt to it. I know that people will argue, and the big question marks is the center back pairing for Italy, where you've got Bonucci, Chiellini, Bastoni, Acerbi, who are really good, and you only have to choose 2. So there have been people saying Bastoni's played in a back 3, Chiellini's played in a back 3, Bonucci's played in a back 3, do it. But I think for the overall rest of the squad, we're more adapt for 4-3-3, especially when you look at the front line. So I would stick with it. I don't think that we'll see those changes, especially that we're this far in. You stick to a plan. And that's it. And I would do 4-3-3, yeah.
Yeah, it would be. I mean, maybe Pep Guardiola would switch it at the last minute, going into the tournament or something like that. Yeah, exactly. But I think that Mancini, as you've said, as I've learned, if he's got the whole federation at every level playing 4-3-3, it'd be madness to change it. But speaking of defense, some people like to point to the aging Chiellini and Bonucci, who they did get some playing time in these pre-tournament friendlies, I should say. Is that an area of the pitch that worries you at all, or is there another part of the pitch that worries you? Maybe the attack, or maybe it's chance production or goal scoring or something like that. Is there anything that feels like it's missing from this side?
Yeah, there is. There's one really big thing that's missing from Italy. To touch on the center backs, I'm not too worried about them, to be honest with you. I do love... I've said that I like Chiellini Bastoni together, and I know there's people out there that say, oh, they're two left-footed center backs, which to me I don't care. I mean, we have right-footed center backs all the time. They're great players. I kind of like the mix of youth and experience of that. And Bonucci, while he's obviously been an important part of the team, I just think Bastoni's been arguably one of, if not the best defender in Serie A, even though he didn't win an award for best Serie A player. But his maturity that he's shown, especially the discipline he's shown under Conte, and he had to, step in to be a leader, I would play him. We saw Bonucci and Chiellini, they played in our last match against Czech Republic, so I'm expecting that to be them, the two center backs. I would do Chiellini Bastoni. And as far as what we're lacking, it's very clear to me. I mean, we have a really great goalkeeper. Our defense is pretty solid. The fullbacks are a little bit questionable. Our midfield is unbelievable. Yeah. Our wingers look really good. The problem is the number 9 for me. And I know people get very mad at me for saying this. I've lost a lot of confidence in Ciro Immobile. While he's been great in the Serie A, he's been unbelievable for Lazio. We can't deny that. I know people will look at the stats. When he's played for the Azzurri, he just crumbles in the moment. And he hasn't produced the way that he should. And, of course, I'm a little bit biased because, I grew up with a generation of strikers that when the going got tough in the important moments, the Italian strikers would bag in a goal. I just felt like it hasn't been that way for Immobile. I hope I'm wrong. I hope that, you have me back on here during the tournament and I say, I'm sorry, Cheeto, go score 4 goals, go score 5 goals. But at this point, the thing that worries me the most is, do we have a number 9 who, when you get one opportunity, when we play against Czech Republic, we play against some of the smaller teams because we've had a lot of easy friendlies. Okay, you're going to get 5-6 chances and maybe you'll score a goal. But when you play against France or you play against Belgium or Portugal, you get one opportunity, you need to score and be clinical. That's the worry that I have.
Yeah, that's definitely one that comes up quite often is, whether it's Belotti or Immobile out there, they're sort of a question mark, at least when they play for Italy, like you were highlighting, because, their records in the Serie A are always great. Maybe Immobile had a bit of a lower season in comparison to this past season, but man, it seems like this is a problem that Portugal had for a really, really, really long time as well, just that lack of a clinical strike. But now we have Andre Silva. Of course, Ronaldo sort of transitioned into being that striker as well. But it can be that difference because defend as well as you want, but you aren't taking those chances and you're going to get torched at some point. But, you mentioned him. You mentioned Bastoni. I believe Raspadori is a striker as well, no?
Yeah. He's 21. He's the exciting one that I think that hopefully maybe, he could do something.
Yeah, exactly. And that's exactly what I wanted to ask you, because it feels like in every tournament, there's some young player that comes along and sort of makes a name for himself and then gets those 50 million transfer tags next to his name. So who do you think it's going to be? Do you think it's going to be Bastoni, who had a great season with Inter? Do you think it could be even a Locatelli or a Raspadori? Who's going to be that surprise if there is one for Italy?
I mean, I wish it would be Raspadori because I think he'd be the biggest surprise. And if we use that term, surprise, like Donnarumma's, 22 years old, but we wouldn't even say that he's a surprise because he's almost a guarantee at this point, It's funny to think about. And even Bastoni for me wouldn't, I mean, of course for Italy, we haven't seen him. But, I think if it was me, I would say Bastoni. I think that he's a great player. He's solid. And he's smart, he's disciplined. I just don't know if Mancini's going to give him the go. I think we'll see after the first game, maybe second game, how Bonucci and Chiellini do together. And, of course, Chiellini struggles with fitness. But we don't have, maybe one person that you could say, oh, this is going to be our guy. There still are some question marks. But if you told me one young player in the team, then I'll pop Bastoni in there. Raspadori, as much as I'm dreaming, I go to sleep at night and I imagine him scoring goals, it's just the reality is, he's a young kid. And if he does pop, it would be great. But I'm not expecting anything.
Yeah, I think that he was. I mean, you could speak to this better than I could, but it felt like he was one of the more surprise packages in that call up for the tournament.
Yeah, nobody expected him. Nobody expected him. He plays for Sassuolo. He's 21 years old. He grew up an Inter fan. You know, his playing idols were like Di Natale and Eto'o. He tries to be like that type of striker. So he's really good, but again, we don't know what to expect. When you get to that stage, you know, it could happen that, you know, it makes, you know, there's some of those people that they get to that moment and they've got the character that they can make it, and others that it breaks it. You know, maybe Mancini's seen something that he says, all right, this kid's got it. And hopefully, and I've gone on record and I said, listen, if Immobile isn't doing a good job in that first or second game, if he's not, you know, scoring goals or at least helping the team out, I pop Raspadori in there and I say, listen, let this kid go, try him out. Worst case scenario, we got a young kid for the World Cup next year.
Yeah, absolutely. That's always the dream, is that you got this young kid that's sort of putting in the work for the next tournament. You know, you think of a lot of the other teams in the tournament that are really young right now, like in England, for example, who just have all those young players. But it does, at least in my opinion, it does sort of feel like a tournament too early for them. And I think that Raspadori absolutely falls into that same sort of boat. But I mean, hey, let's look ahead to the tournament. But before we get there, you know, in the preseason I keep saying preseason. Come on, dude. Pre-tournament. Everyone knows what I mean anyway. In the pre-tournament friendlies, you take them for a grain of salt, of course. But was there anything that sort of jumped out at you? Because I know that you guys already did your preferred starting 11, which I'll show on the screen now. Did anything change after seeing those pre-tournament friendlies, or is it still sticking with the original?
Yeah, for me, not really. I'm also not one to really buy into, you know, I take these games with a grain of salt, with a huge grain of salt. And it's probably the first time in my lifetime that I've seen like the media and fans around really giving Italy. I've seen everybody say Italy's like the dark horse in here. And it's very strange for me. Because usually it's like, all right, Italy's like the outsider. All right, you know, it's always a good team, but you would never call them the dark horse. Or, you know, usually I always feel, and again, maybe I'm biased, but I always feel like the media doesn't really give Italy that much attention, just personally. So it's interesting to come into this. But now it's made me push back on the other side where I'm like, all right, wait a second. You know, we haven't played that many great teams. It's been a lot of, you know, squads that haven't given us the greatest test. I think once we see Turkey's a great side, so after that first match, we'll see the type of character that this team has. You mentioned England has a lot of young players. Italy also has a lot of players who have not played in, you know, high pressure moments or won big trophies. Obviously, you could point out a few, but as a team, we haven't done that. So, and that's a really important factor that you don't see leading up to these preseason tournaments, as you would say.
Yeah, absolutely. And okay, you mentioned Turkey, and that's something that I wanted to talk to you about, because the draw, I mean, it obviously could have been a little bit kinder to you guys, but that group is a very, very even group. I mean, I'd say that Italy are probably technically the strongest side in the group, but I mean, Switzerland are always, man, they're a bitch to play against. They're very, very difficult to beat. Turkey, as you said, are on quite the hot streak. I mean, they beat France in qualifying and tied with them, so they're unbeaten against the world champions. What's the other team in your group? Wales. Yeah, Wales, who just got promoted from League B to League A in the Nations League. Say what you will about the Nations League, but also another very strong team. So how do you see this going? Do you expect Italy to be the top team in that group?
Listen, respect to all the teams. We always got to show respect for our opposition, and I'm not saying, of course, there's teams that maybe on paper they don't look as good and they could prove you wrong. But I think that all of us as fans, and especially as Italian fans, we have to go into things as favorite. It's no more, not qualifying for World Cups against Sweden, and we have to go in there with those expectations that we should be the top. In my head, I'm imagining we have to be at the top of this table. We have to go in there and finish in first place. Second place is not acceptable. And it's about getting into that mind state of being ready to compete. You have to have the pressure on you. You're Italy. You have 4 World Cups. You're not going into this tournament. It doesn't matter about what you've done, that you haven't qualified for the last World Cup or in the Euros. Things haven't always been the best. When you've got that Italy logo on the front of your chest, you go in there with certain expectations. And I think those expectations are good because it gives us the opportunity to live up for them. So I'm not going to be one of those fans that's like, oh, right, these teams are really good. If we finish second, it's okay. No, for me, we have to top the group. There's no excuses for not doing so.
It's actually been interesting, and just sort of tying that back to the whole dark horse aspect, because I feel like Italy, as you said, they have 4 World Cups. They're a giant in world football. It's so interesting to me to now see them, and I guess it's just a consequence of that failure in 2018, but it's so interesting to see them be referred to as a dark horse. Like, they're just two notions that don't really go together for me, Italy and dark horse. But I mean, I guess, you know, like I was saying, it's a consequence of that 2018 World Cup and the fact that, like you just said, they have such a young team. So I don't know. How far do you think they can go? You think that the expectation for you is to win it all, or how far do you realistically see Italy going in this tournament?
I was just going crazy looking at like the brackets. I'm like, all right, if Italy finish first and Netherlands goes second, like who everybody's playing. So I was building it out in my head. So in my head, I have it mapped out that we'll end up playing, I think, Belgium in the quarterfinals, and then France in the semifinals. So for me, I want to see that semifinals. I think we got to get to the semifinals. We've got the opportunity. Belgium's a great squad. We've beaten Belgium in the past, even when, you know, a lot of people said, oh, you know, you're not going to beat that Belgium. They're kind of at the end, their tail end of that, like, really great talent. And we're at the cusp of that. So I want to see a semifinal run. That's my goal. Then when you're playing against France, listen, we've got a good track record against France, and you put that form kind of goes out the window because we're such big rivals. So that's where I'm going. That's kind of what I've got in my head. I'm like, listen, if we get to semifinals, that would be a great run and build up this momentum of playing high pressure matches for next year's World Cup.
Which is only, next year. It's so bizarre saying that after a Euro tournament. Next year already. But thank you once again. That was awesome. And I do look forward to having you on once again once you guys are out of that group stage. And you can kiss the feet of Ciro Immobile.
Oh my God. I hope. Listen, well, since you put it out there in the universe, I'll do the same. I'll be back when, if you have me, when Italy play France in the semifinals.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right before we knock them out and go to the finals.
Yeah, Nostradamus Marco, he's called it, man. He's got the whole tournament mapped out. You had all the numbers floating around your head, doing algebra. You got it. Boom. Marco has set it all up. But what do you guys think? Are Italy marching to at least the semis, as Marco hopes, or are they going to fall short of expectations? Do let me know in the comments below, and do make sure you show Italian Football TV some love. Especially if you're a fan of Italy or Italian football, man. What are you doing not following them? Anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Once again, these have been really fun to produce. And tomorrow, we're talking Spain. Ciao.